Right, good evening everybody and welcome to tonight's Environment Open Spaces Committee meeting on Monday the 17th of February. I'm not going to bore you all with fire drills, Sammy D's already done that, so we'll get straight into the agenda. Apologies for absence.
Yeah, we've got Councillor Tyra, Councillor Fraser and Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest.
Yes. Item 6. It's discussing leases. They're not my leases, but
You can stay here, that's absolutely fine, thank you.
okay.
Then we'll move on. So it's item 4, which is the first public participation. Elizabeth, thank you for being patient with us this evening.
I'm fine as now.
Over to you.
Over to me now. Thank you very much indeed for allowing me to attend and speak. Do you mind if I sit down? I'm not very good at standing making. It's really, I think a lot of you probably here already know various things I'm involved in. But 25 years ago, I was chairman of governance at what is now the primary school in Westthorpe Road, and we had a child who was, mother was in prison for a stabbing in Thetford, and his father was looking after him. And he was living in a flat above Tim Copper Bakers in a one-bedroom flat, and he got nothing. And he attended the school, and he had no change of clothes. He just the clothes he came in. And the staff got clothing out of the lost property box and took it home, washed it for him, and looked after that side of his life. And he lived with his father in this one-bedroom flat. He was roaming the streets all day and in the evenings and the holidays. And the school nurse, which was the luxury which the schools had in those days, came to us, me as chairman, and to the head teacher, Roger Axley, and said, "What are we going to do with this child? He's wandering the streets. He's actually begun to sell little sweeties, in other words, drugs outside Hudgens, which is a shop, supermarket then. He's nowhere to go." And we had nowhere to take him or put him, and they were worried. And I went to see the health visitors, and they said, "Well, there's several children who are in this sort of position during the holidays." And I couldn't believe that was actually happening in Attleborough. But anyway, the long shot of it was that we decided to run a summer play scheme for children to go to during the holidays, because the health visitors said to us there are several children. We could probably fill a room full of the children that are actually roaming the streets unattended, children between the ages of 5 and 11, and this child was 8. So we started a scheme, we tried a pilot, and we got money from Lloyd's Trust charity, and they paid for us to run the scheme, and we ran it in the premises at Chapel Road School. And we had 15 children that first year. We ran it for the 6 weeks of the summer holidays. And it ballooned from then, and since 1999, 25 years, we've been running a summer play scheme for children in Attleborough who some need somewhere to go, and some just are perfectly happy children that are bored and would like an activity in the summer. It's based on the summer play scheme, or summer camp idea that's run in America, but non-residential. In the 25 years that we've been running, we've taken children of all sorts. The majority, over 50% of our children are referred by social services or by the schools themselves that say this child needs this during the holidays. And in that 25 years, we've had 1,500 children who have attended Club 99. We've employed over 200 different people as staff, and they're usually, because they're the only ones with the patience and the energy, usually student age and often undergraduates or people training to be teachers as staff. And also we've employed over not employed, but we have had the benefit of the service of over 500 young teenagers who come and volunteer with the children. And the idea is that they have a fun summer with a sort of a structure to it, whereby they can do various activities. There's cookery, there's craft, there's sport, and they get a swimming lesson every day. And we take them horse riding, and we take them on 1 or 2 trips, and we have a big day at the beach. And at the end of the summer, we hope that they've had a happy, relaxed time. We also include in that selection of children, we allocate particular places for children on the autistic spectrum. So we usually take a minimum of about 10, maximum 10 places on that, and they have one-to-one attention on the scheme as well. So we've been running very happily for the last 25 years, and COVID came along and knocked us for 6, because obviously we couldn't use, we were hiring school premises. We started off at Chapel Road School, and that became too small, and we moved into junior school in Westthorpe Road, or the primary school as it's called now, Westthorpe Road, and held it there. And we took between 20 to 30 children, which usually up to 30s. It's difficult in schools because that's the time that they need to do their maintenance. So we became a bit nomadic in that if a school was having its playground resurfaced or something, we couldn't be there, so we moved to a different school for that summer. And we've even been out, and we've been at Ellingham School for 2 or 3 years. But the majority of our years we were at the junior school or the primary school in Westthorpe Road. That has become, with the academisation of schools since COVID, it's become a less of an option, because schools are looking to make maximum profit, and they're keener to let to Norwich City Football Club to run a football club for the summer or something, which is quite right and proper because they're a commercial enterprise as well. The ethos of the school being a community building no longer is there. So Club 99 has become itinerant, and it's really become a major problem in finding somewhere suitable. And we made a decision that we would like to have our own premises, and we started looking. And since COVID, we have, over the last few years, bought into a scheme of using a premises where there's a forest school in Shropham. We've been using the land there, and the owner there was quite keen that we should perhaps permanently move there, and offered us the option of putting a log cabin up on that site. For a variety of reasons, that's not proved to be the best option, because it's no longer Attleborough. And although a lot of families have got 2 cars, a lot of the children we're dealing with haven't got they're not a 2-car family. In other words, dad's got the car to go to and from work, mum's got a spare car at home to use for these. So a lot of these children didn't have the option of going. And you yourselves, the council, have been very good and helped to support the taxi children there. But it's not the best option for many of our children, because the parents need to see what's going on with them. They need to be out there seeing what we're doing and seeing how we're handling things with children. So we're looking, and I'm coming to you with a request to say we would like very much to have premises or space in Attleborough that we could have accommodation that could be the accommodation for Club 99. And we would very much like to have our own log cabin, not just for Club 99 and not just in the summer holidays, because if we were able to have our own premises, we could offer respite for families at Easter and at Christmas as well. And in term time, my dream or vision, and I have no actual plans for it, would be to have a forest school or something similar actually in that building during the term time. I have spoken to the planners at Bretland, and they're very keen on the idea of a forest school coming to this area because there isn't one, and it's a shared enterprise. I was wondering if it would be considered by the council, or if you think I'm absolutely mad, if in the new Jubilee area and Jubilee Wood area, you would consider leasing a piece of land for us to put a log cabin on to run Club 99. We would have a lease with you that would bring a revenue, and a suggestion when we were looking at Shropham was £2,000 a year, which would be revenue and make your actual development there. It would be a little bit towards the sustainability badge. It would be a way of actually helping us to do something that I believe is helping the community. I think the prime thing we do is help the children of families that have got problems. The sort of children we've had over the last 25 years, we've had the children of serving prisoners, we've had the children with addiction, of families where there's addiction problems, both drugs and alcohol. We've had children who have been abused. It is quite shocking, the sort of problems we have encountered over these years, I have been really surprised that I wouldn't have thought in a community like ours exist. We don't take just from Attleborough, we take surrounding villages as well. And social services have worked closely and referred children with us over the years, as have the schools and referred to us. We've worked in also the other thing, because we've had so many teachers come through, or trainee teachers who've gone on to be teachers. Something we've developed is we've had a partnership with Norfolk Libraries, and the children have storytelling and reading, and we've done the Norfolk Reading Scheme through the library, whereby they have to read 4 books during the summer holidays. And by having all these teenage volunteers coming in, they play board games and do things like reading with the children and help them. And we had the majority of the children achieved it actually when we were doing this before COVID, not since then we haven't been operating properly. So I'm really coming to the council to see if you would consider giving us your support. I don't want financial support, well not at the moment, and it might come back because I never miss an opportunity. But we would raise the money and pay for the building, and we'd have, but would like to lease the land or have that leased to us. It would be a prefabricated building. So if you suddenly decided you didn't want us, or if we went bust or did something awful, there would be an asset there that would be movable or sellable and everything else. We are Ofsted registered. We haven't been Ofsted registered since we've been running with the Forest School at Tottenham, but we are Ofsted registered and have been inspected regularly. And we are a registered charity, and we have annual meetings, and we have an accountant, and our accountancy services are run by Heather Nunn's company. So I'm sowing an idea in your heads just to sense what it's about. And obviously we'll hope that you will give a consideration to this. I have got some leaflets about Club 99 for anybody who doesn't know anything about it, and would be very grateful if you would give it your consideration. If I try to put those down here, then I'll pass you around. If anybody's got any questions or would like to know more.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions for Elizabeth?
I haven't got any questions, just a comment that Elizabeth and her troop have been running this for such a long time, and I have children that come to me some days and go to Elizabeth and other days, and she fills in the gap with a lot of children that would have dropped through the net otherwise. You know, it is a worthwhile organisation, for want of another word, and it has been running and it runs successfully, and the children absolutely love it.
What I was going to suggest was discussing this under item, Sharon did point out to me, item 13, which is SO6 money to be paid and land transfer updates, as that includes the Jubilee Woodlands site. What I will do is I'll bring that forward on the agenda, so that's the first item we take, just so while it's fresh in our minds we can have that discussion, and if we require input from Elizabeth at that point, we can then suspend the standing orders. Sharon, would you like to get started on that one?
Yeah, on item 13.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, just to say that the section, I just thought I'd report in, we haven't got that many more Section 106 monies that have been long approved to be paid to us. I'm just expecting 34,017 to be paid towards Jubilee Wood and 74,000 for Blackthorn Road. So I'm going to obviously start pushing now also for those 2 pieces of land to get the solicitors to get some action, because I haven't heard from them, although I have commissioned them. So I will this week try to change them to say, look, we really do need, in the light that there's the local government organisation, we do need to get these pieces of land in our ownership as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. And going back to, you know, the matter that Elizabeth's just raised, I don't feel that at this point we could go into the specifics, but in principle, our council is in agreement that they would be prepared to lease part of that land for this use.
Yes.
Councillor Dodds?
There's no objection to that.
Well, that seems quite unanimous.
Thank you very much.
It was a very ideal place to put it.
Yes,
Very
it
worthwhile.
is. Mhm.
I will say as well, before I put Squid into nursery, I looked at local forest schools, and there was 3 partly locally, each were, you know, a 10-minute drive away at least, and each had a wait for over a year because they were all at capacity. And there are children, I think, you know, I personally feel that she would have thrived in that environment perhaps more than a more classroom setting, or so I do think that, and you know, she's one of many. There'll be many children that would benefit if we could have that ambition that Elizabeth has to have a forest school occupying as a tenant, and then Club 99 in the holidays and in the breaks.
I think the schools, I mean, you've got to be hard-headed about these things as well, about maintenance and running them and doing them properly. But I think schools buy into forest schools to a certain number of their pupils that use part of their time going into a forest school during the week and part of the time in the classroom. And that's an additional incentive.
Any further comments? If not, we'll get back to the agenda. Next. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda, we then have item 5, which is minutes of the Open Spaces Committee on the 18th of November 2024. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder, or any amendments? There's a proposal, is it, Councillor Dalton, and a seconder from Councillor Bircham. At the show of hands, please.
I've got a flower
so,
here.
yeah, so majority with 1 abstention. Item 6 is leases update, scouts and outdoor town football for gamers.
I haven't done too much on the outdoor town football for the gamers, but I'll try it again. I will try in the next couple of weeks to get some sort of semblance of order into that. But the scouts, we have got a meeting of those that were delegated to look it over, meeting on the 18th of February. So tomorrow. Yes, sorry, yes, that is. Yeah. So obviously we'll have some update for that will come back to Open Spaces, yes, or leases. That will council, yeah.
Thank you, Sharon. Next we have item 7, which is decoy comment, a report from Norfolk Wildlife Trust. It says for consideration and resolution.
Not really, it's just, yeah.
I
just
think
an
that's
update,
more
yeah.
for information than anything.
Yeah, and it's also but to help us really, to guide us with the maintenance side of things, and sort of like to consider, do we just rely on the grounds team, or do we also get, you know, some more special, I mean, obviously Norfolk Wildlife are specialists, so I think it would be good to get them together to talk about the future maintenance of the site, because it's important to have, you know, these their recommendations, but also to put them in our terms, you know, layman's terms, and what it entails. One point I seem to remember was like interesting was, instead of like mowing it with a mower, with a ride-on mower, there are parts of the site that they would actually prefer you to scythe. So you hand cut it, you gather it all up, and that does less damage to it actually promotes the growth of the wild grasses, etc. So mowing it is fine, but it's not actually helping to develop the actual specialist grasses that you could promote, things like that. I think we just need to sort of like incorporate that much more thought into the way we encourage the site in all sorts of ways, like invertebrates, grasses, plant life, and that then encourages bird life and all of the other attributes that a good site, you know, they would expect to see.
Thank you. Was your hand up, Councillor Tony?
It is sort of, I was just really wanting a comment, it wasn't a question. Before we had the grounds team that is now the grounds team and the additional staff, we only had 2 members of staff, and actually they didn't use ride-on mowers. except for our large open spaces, our churchyard, our square, and that was cut with push mowers. And no disrespect to the team now, actually looked much better because the square was better presented, it was striped, the churchyard, it did just look nicer. And then looking after the speciality areas by hand, using the scything, I just sometimes wish that maybe we hadn't progressed to ride-on mowers to some of our more focal areas in the town, because they did look better before we did.
Sharon,
Yeah, point noted, yeah.
are you quite confident though that this is something that you can work with the team, and also, you know, relying on any external
Yeah.
resource or any support that you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some ideas, like for instance, we have got somebody who is part of the station adopters, Dawn, and she's got quite a lot of knowledge as well. So although the Norfolk Wildlife Trust make themselves available, they're not always readily available and they're not so local. So to have somebody like Dawn, or maybe a group of such advisors, could perhaps work with developing that site. But also, I think in probably the medium to long term, I think that, you know, it might not be a bad idea to sort of like look to having a biodiversity policy, sort of like to focus on, and that's where you get the help from your biodiversity volunteers as well, so that we've got much more structure to our areas rather than just maintaining them. You know, look to the medium to long term so that you're actually doing good for the environment as well, which a lot of councils are starting to do. And in fact, we haven't really got round to it, but I do believe it's a duty now of a council to have a biodiversity policy. Well, that's the first time I've ever uttered those words, but I've been meaning to do that, but I've forgotten to say it. So it's something that we should be doing anyway.
Thank you.
Sounds like a plan.
And I will say, in some areas, it's already being done in the town. So St Mary's have started their Eco Church project, and there's actual areas of the churchyard that have been staked out and preserved that are cut by sign, so that it. Which one is it? Is it Ladies Vegetable?
Oh, Ladies Vegetable.
Yeah, so that's encouraged. So yes, thank you very much, Sharon. Sounds very promising. Next we have item 8, which is an update on discussions with the Athletics Academy.
Yeah, I mean, they have actually issued to me their grant form, but I had to do a bit of homework myself just to sort of like assess exactly how much we had spent on the paint. There are a number of ways that we can sort of like go, but obviously I'm going to have more guidance from the council here. So, there was one option that I did put to them when we did discuss, and that was just to obviously point out to them that you don't pay. I think we've had this discussion now, so I don't need to go over it again, but you don't have a lease with us. You don't have a formal agreement to have your club on the ground, yet we maintain it. We pay for the white line, or we've paid for the white line machinery. We give our grounds team, you know, instructions to carry that out. So you don't actually have to do anything, but you do charge your members. So I felt as if that was quite unfair to other clubs that have to pay to play, etc. So one thing I suggested to them is if they applied for a grant for the white lining, that money could come out of the grant pot, but at the moment it's coming out of our general maintenance pot. So if they applied for a grant for the white lining, yes, it is still coming out of council funds, but it's not coming out of the other funds, so that would free that up. Or it could be that if that's not what we want to go to do, you might just wish for me to just pursue the lease option as not a long-term lease, but a sort of like a pay-to-play arrangement, some sort of arrangement where it just doesn't come from the grant, it does come from their from their bank account wholly. So we're sort of kind of at an impasse now, whereas they have submitted a grant application which I received yesterday. And that grant is for £2,000. So, and then that is for white lining. So they will receive the grant and they will then give us that money for, you know, we will charge them for the white lining, if you like.
Councillor Taylor?
I'm always encourage clubs and groups to come forward and apply for grant funding. I think it's an amazing thing that the council, pot of money the council had to distribute. I am quite bewildered by the giving it to them for them to give it straight back to us. That's a little bit random. But it's not even just a case of the fact that they charge their members to use our facilities and our grounds team are maintaining those facilities. They also have a storage container placed on our ground that they do not pay for, and we make all the other clubs and groups pay for that do have similar. So it isn't just cost recovery for the white lining that I have concerns about. It is also the fact that they are using land that we charge other groups for the pleasure of doing to keep their equipment on. So I do think that that needs to be addressed, because I advocate for it all the time. What's good for one is good for everyone, and we need to treat everyone fairly and equally. So I would like that issue addressing as well. We have been amenable to the running club and the athletics club or whatever it's involved into. We allowed them to start up free of charge to support the club to grow its needs. I think now it's been some considerable time and we haven't reevaluated that assistance. And this seems like the ideal opportunity to reevaluate that assistance. And yes, I'm happy for them to apply for a grant, but I do think we need to get everything in order first. And I'm also curious how much the white lining actually costs the council for them to require £2,000 to cover the. So do we have those figures?
I mean, I've got, yeah, I mean, if you took into consideration 2023, for instance, and 2024, in terms of what it actually cost for the paint, it was much the same. In 2023, it was 1,566.66, but in 2024, leading into just obviously the first month, but that was actually that was the line marker. That was 1,542, and the line marker cost us 1,050. So, so all in all, we have actually paid out in 2023 1,566, but in 2024, leading up to the present day, we've spent so far £2,592.
I'll go to Councillor Dow first.
They also have an area fenced off that only they can use. So that surely, if they have a lease for nothing else, they should have a lease for that piece. But they do use
Is that the long jump?
the long jump
Yeah,
bit.
that's what I was
Yes.
going to say.
Yeah.
Councillor Thwaites.
I have to say, if we're going to review everybody's, why should they be different? They are using a facility, we are reviewing everything, so I think it needs to fall under that umbrella.
Okay.
My thoughts are very much the same. The running track, I think there should be a contribution for their use, like there's a contribution from, say, Atborough Town Football Club for the use of the pitches.
Yeah.
I am mindful that outside of their use, you know, the track can be used by anyone in the community, but while they're occupying it, that does restrict it. And equally, or especially, the land in which the container is on, and also the long jump pit.
Yeah.
Because they then have like exclusive rights over that piece of land. And the football club, we're now looking at establishing a lease for the building they have on Gaines Meadow. Why should that be any different? And how do we then justify treating one differently to another?
The only worry I have about a lease is that, whatever length it is, that they have made plans on the 3G pitch side project. They've got a track which the athletics club did admit to me they intend to move to. But I don't know whether they intend to move there, but also use both sides. It's not actually clear to me. So to give them a long-term lease,
I would
But it could be a
just go
short-term
annually.
lease.
you could do a short-term lease, yeah.
Even
Annually.
quarterly or every
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
Is it possible to do a similar system we have with the football club, a pay as you go sort of
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, you could also have that,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Keep
just
it
issue
simple.
issue a
Yeah.
monthly invoice.
Yeah.
And that way it'll probably be more affordable for them as a club as well.
Yeah.
Councillor S Taylor?
It'd just be the container and the long jump pitch, couldn't pay per.
Play, yeah.
Yeah. But those would need a specific, maybe, quarterly, or annually or whatever, annual.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to sort of go back to them, because I'm a bit mindful they've submitted the grant to me, which I'm duty bound to put on to the next full council meeting. But do you want me to go back and indicate the nature of this conversation as well? To say that they will entertain your grant, but there are some wider issues that they still would like to address.
Yeah. Would you like a resolution to that effect?
Yeah, okay, that would be useful, yeah.
I'm happy to reiterate that advice as a resolution.
Yes, so
Yeah.
proposal, is there a second on? Councillor Wenham, and show of hands, please. That's unanimous.
Yeah, thank you, yeah, okay.
Next on the agenda this evening, we have item 9 to consider BE Day 80th anniversary on the 8th of May 2025. Sharon, do you want to lead on this? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, if you like, just to say that the RBL are going to do an erection of the town beacon on that day on our Queen Square, but apart from that, is there anything that the town council needs to consider?
Yeah, so that day is a Thursday. So there would now be the Super Signpost and Support Community CAF session that morning from 11 till 2. Councillor S Taylor had muted doing a tea dance that day instead. So still for free, people could still come, and obviously the refreshments would be free of charge, but it would just upgrade or elevate obviously the offer on that occasion. I think, Sharon, am I right in thinking you'd already approached the Attleborough RBL to see if they
I
would
haven't
offer-
done that at the moment, but I
Okay.
intend to try and do that today. But I
We
just
were
don't
going to
have time.
contact them and see if they would be the support that day, because we're mindful that actually outside of all of the great things that they do in Attleborough, they do help with assistance for ex-military veterans. I am worrying what I'm saying. Councillor Daly's not Councillor Dale's nodding. So obviously there is support that they offer themselves. So,
Yeah, I will do that.
but on that basis, should they obviously, they may or may not be available, but we will certainly ask, although they will be no doubt busy because there's other plans as well that day. But would members be in agreement to elevate the community cafe to a tea dance on that occasion? And the second part, Councillor Taylor.
I was just going to say, obviously, there is funding within the community CAFs pot itself that we
That would
could,
cover the cost.
that would cover the cost. So it wouldn't necessarily be the council covering that cost. The community CAF could cover its cost, because obviously we'd want some sort of music or something to go with that, just to make it a little bit special and open it up for everyone.
And then the other thing that I was going to suggest is, some time ago, there was a suggestion of planting some poppies at Deacon Common. Now, obviously, the report that we've had back from the Norfolk Wildlife Trust kind of knocked that on the head. But I did think, as it was like a commemorative event of, some significance, 80 years, whether or not members would be in agreement for some poppy planting in the cemetery. So I don't know how well people know our cemetery, but in the first, I'm going to say the newer part of the cemetery, where the ground staff's containers are and the skip, in that area, there's like a grass area that literally has a tree stump in the middle, that there's no interments in, like it's completely left. And I did think that could be excavated, poppy seeded, and made a garden of reflection or remembrance and would be quite a nice tribute, and that perhaps we could get some of the local schools involved in sowing those poppy seeds. Councillor S. Taylor.
I'm just going to be facetious and just thinking, when you say the newer part of the cemetery, you don't mean the new part, you mean
Oh, no.
the relatively old.
No, I
new
mean
part.
in my day, the new part, like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no.
I was going to say that piece of land there could actually lend itself to the letters VEAE to be cut out and then planted with flowers, and then maybe we could put some other plant in around it, but we could probably cut that out and plant it as a memorial with the letters, because it's big enough.
Councillor Dalton.
Just on that, VE Day is important, but you've always got to
Oh,
remember VJ Day as well.
Yeah,
in a
later
few
on
years'
in
time.
August,
Yeah.
which I have already had someone ask me what we would be doing for that.
Fair point.
Councillor Thwaites.
We have a war grave, do we not?
Yes.
Do we have
Yeah.
any surviving relatives, if they would
Yeah.
object if we put any planting around their grave, poppies, for example? But
See if it's suitable.
I just thinking out loud, I mean, obviously we have people with us who didn't come home as such.
Yeah.
Do we know what district and council or national are doing? Is anything being planned that we can link everything in with? Do we know?
I know
Also-
there's some grant
Grant funding,
funding.
I was literally just going to say
Councillor
that.
Dalton.
I was going to say, yeah, with war graves, it would probably be best to approach the War Graves Commission.
I was just tossing
Just
something
to
out.
make
I
sure.
don't know what the restrictions would be.
I think at first point of call for us locally would be the family,
Yeah.
because it's not a military cemetery. So if there are relatives still traceable, but on the 13th of this month, Breckland launched their grant scheme. So just recently.
The gamers had a loss funeral.
Did they?
From the sun.
Right.
Just for information, is it 80-day countdown now? It's an 80-day countdown now.
Yeah.
Starts today, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
is it today?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just started. Okay.
So
We got on the right day then, didn't we?
So I don't think there's been any objections, so if we further explore those, we can always bring it back as things progress.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda, we have a events working group update.
Oh, did I put that?
Sorry.
No, that's me. Oh, was it? Oh,
Sorry.
me too.
sorry,
Oh, shall I hand these out?
could I step back one? Sorry.
Yeah.
Because VE Day falls on a Thursday, I know we can't ignore Thursday, but are we planning anything longer over the weekend, potentially?
The Legion are on the bank holiday
Yeah.
Monday.
Just a
Yeah.
thought.
I think they're doing like a street party, aren't they?
Oh, right.
On the Monday,
Okay.
yeah.
On the Monday
Okay.
ball, yeah.
And that is,
Monday,
I am
yeah.
like thinking that out here in Queen Square, isn't it? So that should be really nice.
And other things as it goes along.
I will take item 10, but just,
Yeah.
can we just note that, like mentally, that in the future to take that to full council? So will that come from yourself, Sharon, or from councillor Bircham?
I was going to suggest actually moving the number 10 and 12 to full council. We've got our events working group tentative meeting on the
Defer.
20th. So we could potentially speak about it on the 20th, defer it to full council, and then we've got a bit more of a, something to elaborate on.
Perfect,
Yeah.
thank you very much. So that's 10 and 12.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
next we have item 11, which it says for consideration and resolution, but I wonder if we could have that for information. And then
Should we discuss that?
that will develop
Discuss
at
this
your
on the
next
20th.
working group meeting,
Yeah.
and then we'll come back as
So
well.
10, 11 and
So
12.
10, 11,
10, 11
12.
and 12.
Okey dokey.
Next, we've done item 13, so we'll move to item 14, which is the paddle tennis report on a site meeting with Paddle First. Sharon?
Yeah, it was, we did have a site meeting with this company called Paddle First, who were the ones who came to do their presentation. So we just looked at, two sites really. One was at, Grosvenor, just next to the allotments, next to the tennis court. And the other one was in the grounds, just next to the grounds of the academy, but sort of like between the sports hall and the academy. If you approach the sports hall, you'll see a sort of like a gate with some
The old
grass.
infant school.
Yeah, the old
playing
infant
field.
school, that's right. So we left it with I can't remember his name, the chap who was leading he is a sort of like a site surveyor as well. So we've left it with him to come back with having looked at it, because Megan and I just sort of like took him round really to have a look at what he thinks about those two sites. Whether the school would be willing to lease that particular site, I don't know, but that did look like quite a good site. As it transpired though, I don't really think, if they want to put the courts into Grosvenor, all well and good, but I was under the impression it would be an open air site, but they want to encase it with what looks like an industrial type building shell. So it's indoors, but the size of it would be more than 4 meters high. So I think that would be far too intrusive on that particular site. If you were to consider that, that would be better placed at the old infant school site. But we've left it to him to come back with.
I agree it would be intrusive, but obviously they would need to submit planning applications anyway, and I think the officers would take that into consideration.
Yeah.
I agree with your conclusion, it would be intrusive there.
And Megan is also going to go away and look at other options, because Paddle First are one of a number of paddle companies. So it could be that another company comes up, because if you're going to look at this, maybe if there is any funding available or whatever, that would have to go through a tender process, in which case you'd have to get sort of like expressions of interest from other organisations anyway.
Thank you. Next, we have a second public participation. Elizabeth, would you like to participate any further?
No, I think I've bored you enough with my enthusiasm for my scheme.
We won't board at all. Not that I want to talk for everyone, but I think, you've certainly sold it. Okay, well then we have items for the next agenda. I don't have any that spring to mind. As always, if there's anything that comes to any members, feel free to send it to Sharon and she'll have it for you. Then we have finished and our presentation. Thank you.